About 2 years ago, Meshforce sent me their mesh system, and I actually did a review a couple years ago about my thoughts. Back then, I thought though, since I've been using it every day of my life for the past 2 years, it might be worth doing a follow-up review and share some of my thoughts, my likes, dislikes, and who I think this mesh network would be good for. Let me talk about what I like about this. For one, price is actually kind of average-ish, I guess. I've seen mesh networks that are much more expensive, and I've seen mesh networks that are a little bit cheaper. This tends to be on the more inexpensive side, which is kind of nice if you are like me and really cheap and want to get something that's good but not expensive. Another thing I really like about this is the range on these things. So my house is on a half-acre lot, and I can go literally anywhere in my yard and still get Wi-Fi signal, and actually get pretty good Wi-Fi signal. I've ran some tests, and I basically have to go beyond my yard into neighbors' yards or out in the street before I get to the point where I just don't have signal anymore. This has really good and impressive range. Another thing I like about this is the speed. So I pay Xfinity money to get 60 megabits per second, and when I run speed tests on this, I'm getting like 70 to 80. So there's something going on. I'm getting faster speeds than I'm paying for, which is unjust, and I hate it. No, I don't hate it, but bottom line, I'm getting the speeds I would expect or hope to get with this. I'm getting fast speeds. And lastly, I think a really nice thing about this is the simplicity. It's really easy to set up. You download the app, and then from the app it kind of walks you through how to set up the first device, and then you just plug in the other devices and they just work. If they don't just work, then you can manually add them, and it's very easy to do. Some of the features that the app allows you to do is you can view all of the devices connected to your network. You can view the IP addresses assigned to those devices. You can set up a guest network, and you can program that to either be a timed guest network where it will quit after a certain time, or you can just have it on permanently if you want. It also has parental controls, so you can like find a device, put it in a group, and say this device can only use the internet from this time to this time, or it can't use the internet from this time to this time. So if you have kids and they have devices and you don't want them, for example, using the internet at night, then you could turn that parental feature on and disable those devices from accessing the internet. So that's kind of a cool feature with this mesh setup. And this does other things like having QoS or port forwarding, DNS, etc. Okay, now I want to talk about some of the things I don't really like about this. So as I mentioned before, I've had this for 2 years. Every once in a while, I will check for firmware upgrades for the device, for the app. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure for the 2 years I've had this, there has not been one single firmware update. Now, on the one hand, the fact that this works really well without updating the firmware is a sign that it's a good device. On the other hand, it's kind of scary when there are no updates at all for 2 years. The other thing I don't really like about this, and this is kind of a big deal for me, is there's no way to reserve IP addresses on this. Most decent routers allow you to reserve IP addresses. They have a DHCP server that allow you to do that. If you want to do that with this, the only way I know of to be able to do that is to get another router, use that for DHCP mode, put this in bridged mode, and then you can assign IP addresses to your devices. But yeah, not with this unless you use it in conjunction with another router. So after 2 years, would I recommend people get this or not? Honestly, for the average homeowner, I think most people would be really happy with this. It has great range, great speed, super easy to set up. There are people who might need more functionality, who might not want this. Like, if you're someone who really wants to set DHCP reservations, then yeah, maybe this is not the best for you. If you don't even know what I'm talking about, then it really doesn't matter, and this will work just fine for you. I think really the only thing I can think about that I really like about this that I haven't talked about, it does have a couple ports on the back, one for WAN, one for LAN. So I will have this plugged up to, I've got one behind my desktop, I've got my main router downstairs, and I can plug my desktop directly into this. I actually have a switch, so I plug it into the switch into the desktop, and I'm getting really fast speeds with that. And so you could use one of these if you want to set up your own home lab or something, or you know, whatever. If you have devices that you need to plug in physically to an Ethernet cable, this is actually pretty nice. I know there's some mesh networks that don't have that, so that's one thing to keep in mind. It's really cool. Overall, I think it's a pretty great system. It's not perfect, it doesn't have everything that I want, but it's pretty close to it for a good price. After 2 years, I haven't moved on. I still like it, still works, so there you go. Let me know if you have any questions below. I will try my best to answer them as best I can. Thanks.